with Linda again, Linda Shalala. Linda's been locked up again. She's locked up in Midland for how long?
2 weeks.
And she's currently locked up in Elmer Street, Fremantle.
Further 4 weeks.
So you've been there for 4 weeks?
In total I've been 6 weeks in locked wards.
6 weeks she's been locked wards. So when we interviewed her before, when you were with me for those other interviews, she was living in the community in St Jude's, but subsequent to that they've locked her up again. So it's just Nazism, isn't it? It's Nazism what they're doing. It's just destroying people's lives, destroying their rights. You have a right to freedom.
In the Geneva Convention, I don't know which article it is, under, in 1993 it was actually brought before the United Nations that everyone has a human right to freedom, everyone has a human right to make decisions for themselves, have their own income, be in access to their own family and friends, and not to be psychologically tortured either.
And you have the right under international law, Australian Commonwealth law, the Human Rights Equal Opportunity Act of 1986. Schedule 2, there's a Schedule of Rights which comes from United Nations, as you were saying. The right to freedom, the right to choose where you want to live, the right to reject forced treatments and forced incarceration.
Exactly.
So essentially you're subject to... thanks very much. Good on you. It's really torture, isn't it? It's forced incarceration, it's forced drugging. And you're an innocent victim.
Yes.
So under Australian Commonwealth law and international law, you have the right to freedom, the right to refuse dangerous treatments and forced drugging.
Yeah, like psychological torture, as in they've been doing electroconvulsive therapy.
Well, also the forced drugging of chemical compounds.
Yeah, multiple chemicals. Some people are on 10 to 15 different types of drugs.
But I want this to be absolutely clear for the Australian people and the people around the world. Do you want to take these drugs?
No.
Do you want to be locked up?
No.
Well, you see, it's abusive. It comes under the Crimes Torture Act of the Australian Commonwealth Act. Is a Crimes Torture Act. Where the Attorney General can prosecute people on the basis of torture as a crime against humanity or citizens or individual citizens. So under the Crimes Torture Act, which is a Commonwealth law, the Attorney General can prosecute people. So the psychiatrists should be prosecuted, really. And the politicians should be... If the politicians don't stop this, they should be jailed. And if the psychiatrists don't stop it, they should be jailed as well. So I'm going to name the psychiatrist doing this to Linda. So we've got Tsar, Fremantle, is like a Nazi, and the other people as well. VJ Lazar, Mandurah, not even Australian. So the politicians are bringing in foreign psychiatrists and foreign people to lock our people up and forcibly lock them up, forcibly give them dangerous treatments, including chemical compounds. How disgusting is that? It's treason.
It is treason.
When your politicians do it to your own people. Do you reckon? Lawrence Kozlowski, who is a medical registrar at Midland. You know, the Midland psych facility, they locked you up.
Yeah. I went before three lots of panels. I went before the Mental Health Tribunal, the Statutory.
Thank you.
Is that everything?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much.
State Administrative Tribunal.
We went before the...
And I went before the Supreme Court and the appeals of the Supreme Court.
So he went before the Supreme Court, appealed the Supreme Court, State Administrative Tribunal, and the Mental Health Review Board.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Nothing. I'm still not in Elm Street.
She's still locked up. So that proves that they're enforcing Nazi orders. It's just Nazism, I reckon.
It is.
And that the Mental Health Review Board, the SAT, the Supreme Court, are just enforcing Nazi orders. And I'm disappointed with the lawyers at the Mental Health Law Centre.
Yeah.
I was in that hearing in the Supreme Court watching what was happening. And I can tell you for certain that those lawyers did not fight for Linda's rights. They did not even talk about your rights.
No.
Did they?
No.
They had a bullshit discussion about the jurisdiction of the SAT and the jurisdiction of the Mental Health Review Board. Well, how does that help when they're issuing Nazi orders to lock people up? People know the legal work I've done, know that I'm highly articulate regarding the law, the knowledge of the law, knowledge of cases. You know, it's Nazism. So their discussion was a legal discussion about the jurisdiction of the SAT, the Review Board, and the Supreme Court. However, there was no discussion about the rights and interests and needs of this lady who it was regarding. And subsequent to all those hearings, she's still locked up. So all up, it's been nearly 3 years in Western Australia.
3 years in Western Australia. I can't remember how many years in Canberra. Probably about 14. And in New South Wales from the age of 16.
I think they should be jailed, Linda. I think they should be jailed for what they've done to you.
Yeah.
I think the politicians, if the Attorney General doesn't stop this, he should be jailed. If the psychiatrists involved, they should be jailed. The head of the Mental Health Review Board should be jailed, and also the head of the SAT should be jailed, and those Supreme Court judges should be jailed. This is so criminal. They're all participating in torture.
There should be a Royal Commission into it, just as there is at the moment with Julia Gillard, the Royal Commission into sexual abuse.
Sexual abuse of children. Yeah, well, they're having a Royal Commission on sexual abuse of children. Well, anybody that sexually abuses a child is pretty sick of it, and they need to repent seriously, otherwise they won't live in hell. So definitely needs to be a Royal Commission. I've been calling for a Royal Commission for over a year, and I've been calling for a Royal Commission in Western Australia to go back 50 years, because that was the last time there was a commission, 1963. But the deaths continue, the practice continues. They have an investigation, they catalogue the deaths, and then they let the practice continue. That's the problem. The practice of psychiatry must be abolished. It has to be abolished.
And
Don't you think?
And they're giving drugs which cause suicides, which cause all these things to happen. If they didn't give these drugs, then there wouldn't be the suicide in numbers that there are today.
Well, in effect, they're just killing those people. It's murder. They're killing them. If you intentionally give treatments to people and drugs to people that that are proven to kill, that are proven to increase violence, that are proven to cause people to commit suicide, that are proven to increase the risk of homicide as well and violent tendencies, that's murder. Isn't it? Do you think?
Yeah.
They are giving this pharmaceutical industry. $200 million a year is spent in Western Australia on psychiatric drugs. And they are killing people, the politicians and the psychiatrists, and the people in the review board and the SAT and all the judges. If you support it, it's murder. It's murder, torture and slavery.
Yeah, because for 9 times out of 10 I've been out of the workforce and been in limited paid positions ever since I was 16. And I've never earned more than $300 a week, literally.
But you've got educational records. I've seen your education records. And we're going to do another recording when we can get you out to show the public show the public your educational records. I have seen Linda's educational records. There's a journalist that works for the Fremantle Herald that's seen some of your records. He didn't write articles for us. That's disappointing. No, he wrote an article for Patrick McGorry instead. Patrick McGorry is a murderer. How can someone like that be made Australian of the Year? It's a cruel joke.
Even the Governor General has known about these torture treatments and nothing has been done. No one has gone out of their way except for some patients that have been in prior to this, and also Teresa, who might have gone to another patient.
Well, I can tell you they're investigating some deaths, like the deaths happening out in Graylands, but I can tell you that the deaths are more than what they are investigating. They're only investigating those deaths because the families have pushed them.
Yeah.
But what about all the victims of this practice that haven't got families fighting for them or other people fighting for them? There are thousands of people that they've murdered. You know, it's got to stop.
Yeah,
It's got to stop. You want your freedom.
I want my freedom to come and go, not to be on a treatment order. So if I protest about anything in public, if I go to a public gallery and stand up to say my rights, then I can be arrested and taken back to jail. Or into a psych ward again.
Which proves that it's political.
It is all politically based.
It's politically and sociologically based.
Correct.
They even stop you from voting. Stop them from voting.
Yes.
So they stop victims of psychiatry from voting.
Yes.
She wanted to contest the election. They stopped her.
They stopped me from getting my licence back to drive a car.
Yeah, that's because of driving. That's what they did to my brother as well.
They tried to get control of my finances. I'm in control of my own finances.
Yeah, that's right. That's what they do. See, torture, murder, and slavery. I think that. They should be jailed, and if they're not jailed, they're going to end up in hell.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Psychological torture, every name that I've mentioned or that they have got wind of, they have sent another person with a similar name as far back as 1980 concerning my personal records.
Hot chocolate's really nice.
Try some. Delish.
So they got you there because they claim that you are psychotic. Is that it?
Yeah, basically.
Is she psychotic to you? She's not psychotic. They are psychotic. I'm telling you, they are crazy. They're criminals. They are psychotic to be forcibly locking people up, forcibly giving people dangerous treatments, forcibly giving people dangerous treatments and dangerous drugs that are proven to kill people. That's psychotic.
But the committed criminals are in there with the everyday person who hasn't done anything. And many times I have been waiting until the middle of the night to be seen by a doctor. And they just arrive when they feel like it. They don't make appointments. They don't say, we'll be here tomorrow. They just snap their fingers and expect you to be ready to be interviewed by them.
They're not doctors, are they? If they're killing people with their treatments that are proven to kill people and children, they're death doctors. They're not doctors. They're death doctors. They're killing people. How obvious is it? It's so obvious. It is so obvious when you research and look at the evidence. It is just glaringly obvious.
I saw survivors of the 1920s. I've seen survivors live from the Second World War, and still they are doing this in a civilian atmosphere, in a civilian world, in a democratic country.
Yeah. It's not democracy.
No.
It's definitely not democracy. And it's back on to shorten the file. It's easy to edit. It's murder, it's torture, it's slavery, controlling people. The extent extent that they control people's lives, control their money and their assets, it's horrific. And the banks, they do it through the banking system and the public trust, making economic gain out of human misery. That's what the government is doing to victims. It's horrific. It's Nazism. You look at all the factors. The public advocate getting paid by the taxpayer to enforce this Nazi practice. Even the lawyers in the mental health law centre are getting paid by the government oh no, it's okay, it's cool. It's filming, but it's all right. There's cars and everything, so it's all good. It's all good.
They're not too bad, those guys.
No, it's cool. It's fine. That paid by the government, but to have a legal discussion, a legal argument in the Supreme Court about the jurisdiction of this.
Wasting taxpayers' money. I don't know how many thousands it costs to go to the Supreme Court a day.
Millions. Wasting taxpayers' money. But in the end, wasting taxpayers' money, and she's still locked up. And there's no order. Where's the order? But you're still locked up. And
I had to sneak out past the authorities to get out to the freedom to be able to make this video.
That's right. Well, I sneaked her out. Well, she sneaked out yourself. Sneaked out yourself, didn't you?
I've done that 3 times in 3 weeks.
so snuck her out to give a testimony. We're going to go back there and film there in the compound. But not only wasting tax money, the outcome is she's still locked up. so that's
me. Do I look like I need locking up?
Well, I think they should be locked up, don't you reckon?
Yeah.
People like the Tsar and the politicians. I say we lock up the politicians and all the psychiatrists. Forcibly lock them up, forcibly inject them and stuff. And take control of their lives and their money and their assets. They wouldn't survive, would they?
No.
Wouldn't survive?
No.
That's the thing, if society put them in a big room and locked all the politicians and the psychiatrists up, forced dangerous treatments on them, destroyed all their human rights,
and 9 times out of 10,
they would die. They would not survive.
9 times
Obviously.
out of 10, they are from rich families, and they have to live on the streets.
Yeah, well, I think the politicians and the psychiatrists should just be locked up, jailed, see what it's like. And all the homelessness. What are they going to be homeless for 6 months? See if they survive. You know? And the extent they use the police.
That's right.
That is evidence of Nazism. They are politicians and psychiatrists and the staff that support them are totally using the police for immoral, criminal purposes. They are. Don't you reckon?
I agree.
Because that's it's Nazism, to use the police for brutality. You say they're using the police for brutality against innocent victims.
I would say so. For me to have a holiday in the last 2 years, I went to the Esplanade Hotel in Fremantle, where I was gone for 10 days, and still they were hounding me. I had a plane ticket, first class Qantas, to go down to Melbourne, and then to Sydney, and then a place booked in Dubbo, and they drugged me so that I could not even catch the plane out of the state.
I'm in Australia. In effect, they hunted you down, didn't they?
Yeah.
And is it true that they get the police to drag people out of their homes?
They can forcibly arrive on your doorstep at 3 or 4 in the morning, any time they feel up to it, give you an order and take you and handcuff you and put you in a paddy wagon and take you to one of these facilities. I didn't even know in Midland where I was. I had never been there before, and I was miles and miles away from anywhere that I knew.
So that's really Nazism, using the police for brutality. They're using, it's not the police's fault really, but the police have a choice to do it or not do it really. But their Nazi orders getting the police to engage in brutality against innocent, defenceless victims. Well, it's pretty horrific. They should be prosecuted. They should be jailed and prosecuted for this. It's just been going on for too long. And if they don't stop it, they should be going record.
Every doctor in the state should spend 1 week in a locked ward as a practice, as part of their medical degree, to see how they feel about the situation.
Well, I think if we abolish the practice altogether, do you think it needs to be abolished?
I think everything needs to be re-established in the medical field. I've got medical qualifications going back 30 years, and I can't get a medical job because of it.
Can't get a medical job?
No. Or a job at all, per se.
Because they keep locking you up, that's why. Locking you up for political reasons, really. It's torture, you know, it's just so obvious. But I think they need to be abolished. The practice needs to be abolished because how can you go on murdering people and torturing people and forcing slavery and allow that to continue? It has to be abolished. Also, the rate that GPs give psychiatric drugs to people is criminal. They're drugging 20 million children around the world. Do you know that?
No.
20 million children they drug with psychiatric drugs. It's criminal. For economic gain, for economic purposes. They're doing it so they have a job and for economic purposes. And a law that permits murder, torture and slavery so they can have a job. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a job, would they? Because no one would freely subject themselves to any of that. Do you reckon?
Would they admit the Queen into a psych centre because she only sleeps 6 hours a day? Or 4 hours a day?
Well, of course not. It's about power and control. Power and control. The public rang that place, lied to them, trying to get me locked up. I've made a police report. I've said that the police will be getting that tomorrow. But, you know, it didn't work, did it, idiots? Because I'm a lot smarter than you. I've got more morals.
These people have no sense of morality and ethics.
They don't have any morals, do they? No. If you had morality, you would not torture people. You wouldn't lock them up, forcibly drug them, forcibly lock them up, would you?
No.
Freedom, you know. Freedom, human dignity, human rights.
Freedom of speech. Why does a journalist have freedom of speech? Teachers have some freedom of speech. Well, there's even a teacher that's locked up in there.
Yeah, Sue Varley.
And I know of another teacher who was a primary school teacher. She was locked up.
Is that Lorraine?
Lorraine.
Oh, yeah, Lorraine Smythe, locking people up. Teachers, locking teachers. They jailed a teacher too, a female teacher. They're all women as well.
Yeah.
You know. Geraldine Bowden, they jailed her. A cruel female judge jailed her for allegedly for a traffic offence. Oh, there's going to be a shortage of teachers. Well, I wonder why they're locking them up.
There's a shortage of medical people. There's a shortage of teachers. There's a shortage of nurses. I can do any of these positions because I'm qualified enough. And still I haven't got work. I haven't had work in 5 years. And when I was working as an AIN in nursing homes, washing people and cleaning their bodies.
going to show the public your educational records as evidence, because I've seen those.
Yeah.
We need to show the public so we can do that. Linda's got a lot of educational records, heaps. And I've even seen that award you got from that. Was it the governor?
It was Duke of Gloucester.
What was the award again?
Grand Prior.
Grand Prior, I've seen it. And that journalist too for the Fremantle Herald saw it, but he didn't write any articles for the people who've been helping. Thanks very much.
And are you still going for hot chocolate?
Sorry?
You still going for your hot chocolate?
Yeah, I should be right. Just a minute.
Thank you. So, so the journalists are not really reporting properly on what's really happening. You know, you've got to look at it from the victim's perspective. The victim, it's like Nazism for them.
It is Nazism.
Imagine if you're forcibly locked up, forcibly drugged. I would consider that to be against me. If that happened to me, consider it to be engaged in subjected to Nazi type practice and treatment. So it's just been a horrific experience for me. The research I've engaged.
Yeah.
It's been very heartbreaking and it's been very difficult and it's been traumatic in a sense. Like discovering what they're actually doing to people.
That's right.
So I see it as a great burden. You know, like it's not right that I should carry this burden. Other people need to help and stop it. It has to be stopped. There's accountability before God, the God of the Bible.
They don't even look at the Bible. They don't even look at religion. If someone is really, really religious, they look at them as being soft.
You see atheists doing it to Christians and people, religious people.
Yeah, it's in a secular society.
Yeah, they have no respect for religion, Christians. You believe in the Bible?
Yeah.
Came to a Bible study with me.
I've always been to church ever since I was at knee-high to grass from the age of 3. My grandfather was a Morris brother before he got married and took his final vows and got married instead of going to the church. He was a teacher. My father-in-law is a lay minister and has been a lay minister for 50 years.
So, the persecution of religious people. My brother, that they're drugging with paliperidone, they're going to kill him if he doesn't stop. David. He's a Christian man. I wouldn't hurt a fly. He's peaceful, he's beautiful. The problem is that he doesn't talk very well. That's the problem. He's very vulnerable in that regard then. So he needs people to talk for him. The government tried to destroy me over it. You know, my pursuit to save his life and fight for his rights. They tried to destroy me. Not only they're destroying my brother, they're destroying me. They should be jailed for that when they done to my family. Me and my brother. So you know, I want justice. I want justice. What they do is they stop people from voting and participating in the political process, don't they?
Absolutely. They take away people's legal rights, they take away people's freedom, they are not democratic and they are taking out people's justice, morality and ethics.
And they're doing it. They actually stop people from voting, they stop them from participating in the political process, which proves that it's political.
And they take them to court for years and years and years, and then they have no rights anymore, they have not a penny in their pocket, and then they have to live on the streets.
Well, the politicians now have a list, a big long list of ways that they stop people contesting elections. And one of them is to bankrupt people.
Well, I'm not completely bankrupt.
Well, they can bankrupt a person and stop them from contesting a political election. You see, that's how easy it is for them, because they maintain their power of control and they're increasing the costs all the time name on the ballot paper, like now it's $2,000 a person for the Senate. And it's $1,000 for the lower house to get your name on the ballot paper as a political candidate. Then they create all these laws and rules about how they disqualify people from contesting. A big long list now. And it's all geared towards maintaining their own power and controlling their own position. So it's really quite evil. It's got nothing to do with leadership. It's the worst kind of leadership. It's the sort of thing that creates totalitarianism, communism and Nazism, not democracy.
Have you ever read that book, Animal Farm?
Yeah.
It's the same as that.
George Orwell.
Yes.
1984?
89,
Big Brother. Well, it's the work of Satan. It's political, social, economic control of humans. The worst kind of leadership. Evil leadership, really. I've got a Master of Education specialising in leadership management, and I've studied great leaders in history.
Yeah.
You know, great leaders like Nelson Mandela.
How many years was he in prison?
He was incarcerated for 27 years for fighting for the rights and freedoms of black people. And then they made him the president of the country.
That's right.
That's a great leader, fighting for the rights and freedoms of people. Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
That wasn't her real name, by the way. Teresa wasn't her real name.
Isn't it?
Something else. She's got my name, see. I'm the real Mother Teresa. Nah, but I'm very different to her because I'm more political.
Yeah. Not as submissive.
No. I'm not submissive. I'm a bit of a fighter.
I'm a
only
feminist.
small, I'm only little.
Same.
You're a feminist. Yeah, I don't regard myself as a feminist.
Yeah.
Well, I believe equal rights, women and men. Women should be paid the same economic reward as men throughout the world. And women should have half leadership roles. The same number of leadership roles between men and women in every profession, in politics, in the judiciary as well, in education and medicine, etc.
I studied pathology for 10 years as both veterinary and human pathology to come out as a laboratory manager. I had my own laboratory, my own staff, my own office, my own microscope, and I was also part of the SWAT team in Sydney, and this is going back to the 1980s.
Now you've been treated like this.
Yeah.
She's been treated like locked up, forcibly locked up, forcibly drugged, and
Yeah,
they're not giving you ECT at the moment.
No, don't
No,
go
but
there.
she's been giving that 3 times a week for 12 months.
Yeah.
The same place that they got her locked up now. So.
And they can do that to anyone. They can take anyone out of their home, anytime, day or night, take them into custody, hold them for 3 days, lock them up, put them on any charge they can find under the sun, and then give them torture treatment.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what they've been doing to me.
Yeah. Well, you see, it's 3 times worse than jail.
Yeah, yeah.
It's 3 times worse than a jail.
Yeah.
It's a psychiatric facility because, first of all, the victim is innocent
Yeah,
of any wrongdoing.
yeah,
The victim is innocent, defenceless,
yeah.
and
usually
a
in
good citizen.
minority.
They're not criminals, obviously. They're innocent victims, defenceless. So that's the first thing. Secondly, they're forcibly locked up, which is a crime in itself. And then thirdly, they are forcibly drugged and given dangerous treatments. So it's 3 times worse than a jail sentence, because if you're convicted of a criminal offence, you know, a real criminal offence, say murder, well,
You have a right to a fair trial at least. Here you don't even have a right to a fair trial.
Yeah, that's right, because they don't get legal representation.
I've still got
I've
still got orders pending in the Supreme Court. I've still got orders pending in the tribunal.
Yeah, but those judges, they destroyed your rights, didn't they? They destroyed our rights. You know, the politicians and the attorney generals across the country destroyed the rights of the group in South Australia, Street Church.
Yeah.
Street Church and the Corneloo brothers. Millions of dollars of tax money spent to destroy your rights. It's criminal, they should be jailed.
And they know I have to come back because I've got nowhere to sleep unless this person, Teresa, takes me in. And I can't go and bludgeon other people. I have ethics and morals and standing. And this has just undermined all my credibility.
Well, the fact is,
yes,
thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the fact is, they've made you homeless, haven't they?
Yeah, literally homeless.
They made her homeless. So they make people homeless as well. Well, it's Nazism. It's just Nazism. For political reasons, for economic gain, for money.
Yeah, they get paid mega bucks while we get nothing, except Centrelink payments, which is less than $300 a week. Practically starving by the time we have.
Well, they get paid a lot of money to destroy people's lives, really.
They get over $80,000 to $120 grand a year, and we survive on $10,000 to $12,000 a year.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not just that, it's they're stopping your ability to work.
Yeah,
Because you want to work.
yeah.
She wants to work. So that's by locking her up and forcibly locking her up, forcibly going in there, stopping her from working. It's a human rights abuse. It's human rights abuse. It's just, how can anyone do that and live with themselves, honestly?
No.
I don't know how they can live with themselves.
No.
You know, people like Lazar, how many people does he kill with his treatments? He's obviously torturing them. Orders, Nazi orders. The federal government report is victims of psychiatry die on average 25 years younger than the general population. Well, why is that? Because they're killing them with their treatments.
And they're premeditating what they do in advance. That's what they're doing to me. They're premeditating and preempting my next move. So that if it looks like I'm going to do this, then they intervene straight away, or they change it so that I can't go ahead with what I plan to do.
So that's just torture. If you force people to do something, you know,
Yeah, against their will.
psychological torture that is, really.
It is constant psychological torture.
Well, I'm glad we've got freedom at the moment. You've got the freedom to have a coffee, hot chocolate.
Only because I snuck out and I should be on the wall. So for this I'll probably get more than 15 obs, and I'll probably be put in detention, and I'll probably get an injection tomorrow.
So they got her on 15-minute observations. Why? And why do they have to get the police to go into psych units? One time I visited Sue Varley.
Yeah,
Remember
that's
that?
right, yeah.
There were police officers in there. They got them locked up, forcibly locked up, forcibly drugged, and they have to get the police to go in there for what?
Yeah.
Well, the police are witnesses, aren't they? They're witnesses to crime. That's what I reckon.
And
The police
they
should
have
stop
to
it.
do,
The police
they
have
have
to
to
stop
do
it.
the dirty work of the doctors, because the police have a duty of care when they're called to answer that call, and it ties them up for 3 to 6 to 12 hours at times.
Well, they're using the police to engage their criminal behaviour, their violent behaviour. They're using the police to enforce their violent, torturous behaviour, torturous action and practice. It's as simple as that. You get the police. As if you haven't got enough power to do what you want, you have to get the police to help you. Well, that's just brutality.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. You know,
And
that's horrific.
They single you out where you live. They single out where you work. They single out your friends on buses, on trains.
Yeah, but they're going down. It's going to be stopped. It's going to be abolished. They should be jailed, some of them, you know. prosecuted in jail. The politicians. The politicians are accountable for everything and they take responsibility for nothing. Don't you reckon?
Absolutely. They're just... I won't go there.
They're corrupt. Look at all the suicide in our society.
That can be stopped. That can be helped.
That's been going on for 3 decades in Australia. They don't give a shit about that, do they? What about all the homeless people? 105,000 homeless Australians. What about all the people they're killing in those psych facilities across the country? You know, they poisoned the water in Queensland. I saw a documentary on that last night on ABC. They poisoned the water. Who's responsible for that? Wayne Swan? Tony Burke? They use those companies. I've got to do a recording about it, broadcast. Rise Up Australia. I went to their meeting the other day. And the Australian Democrats. I might be going on the Senate, contesting the Senate with the Australian Democrats.
That's right.
So my name's going to be on the ballot paper every state and federal election until I win a seat in Parliament. So if I'm in the federal election, the Senate, anyone in Western Australia can vote for me. Vote number 1. I need your number 1 vote.
You do too.
I do what?
You do need their vote.
I need your number 1 vote. I need your number 1 vote to win a seat in Parliament, to fight for your rights and freedoms.
Yeah.
Don't you reckon?
Yeah.
If everybody in Western Australia votes for me number 1, I'll win a seat in the Parliament.
That's correct.
In the federal Parliament. Show proper leadership for our nation, you know. Really help people. Help Australians find jobs. You know, they talk about a 5.1%, 5.2% unemployment rate as being satisfactory. That's garbage.
Yeah.
That's more than 100,000 Australians who don't have a job.
And they keep being
And that's every year.
They keep bringing migrants into the countries. What about the Aboriginal people on settlements? What are their rights, you know?
They should be given jobs. The Aboriginal people should be given jobs. People who are in jail when they're released, they should be given jobs. Australian citizens. And 457 visas should be banned. Because the political accountability is to give jobs to your own people. You have to find jobs for Australians. That's it.
That's
Don't you
right.
reckon?
Yeah.
And the fact that you're getting 457 visas is treason. It's treachery.
Yeah.
They're traitors, engage in treason and treachery. You know, because jobs for Australian citizens, that's it.
There's so many Australians out of work, so many single housewives and single men that need jobs and they're not getting them because of these issues that we've discussed.
So I'll fight for the right of every Australian to have a job. I'll find a job for you as a politician. Politicians should be finding jobs for Australian citizens. That's it. They don't do that. Bring in 457 foreigners because they don't want to educate the public. They don't want to educate Australians. They don't want to invest in education. That's why.
Yeah.
That's how bad they are. That's how corrupt they are as leaders. They don't want you to be educated because it maintains their power and control. Their position. That's how corrupt they are. They should all be jailed. It's got to the point where we should jail some of our politicians to stop it happening because it'll never stop. And voters have to. You vote for Liberal and Labor, it's a waste of a vote. You're wasting your vote. You're just voting for treason. And people need to start voting for other people. Independents, Australian Democrats, Rise Up Australia, Australian Christians. You know, there's other parties. WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
WikiLeaks has got candidates now. Just vote for other people. Vote for other Australians. Put Liberal and Labor last and second last on the ballot paper. You know, in Julia Gillard's electorate, find a good independent, vote for them number 1. In Tony Abbott's electorate, find a good independent and vote for them number 1. It can be done. Get rid of all of them. They are corrupt. And if we vote number 1 other people, we can do it. We get better representatives.